If your tracks don't sound as groovy, as punchy as your favorite artist tracks, then there may be one thing, one little secret that you are missing. And once you master this, you will master the groove. And this is exactly what happened to me. Once I understood this logic, this concept, and this technique, my tracks started sounding so much better. Let me give you two examples of exactly same track, and you will hear quite a big difference in those two tracks. And then I'm going to show you how to fix the problem and how to make the loop sound much better. So let's check it out. So these are two loops, and I'm sure you can hear quite a big difference in those two. And there's just one thing that I did wrong deliberately to show you this example and show you how this one thing may be holding you back from achieving crystal clear and punchy mixes. For those of you who are new to the channel, my name is Vlad and I create superstar music producers, and I want you who's watching this video now to be the next David Guetta, Martin Garrix, Tiesto, you name it. And this is the reason why I'm making those videos for free. And if you're interested in any of my one-on-one coaching programs, all the link down below. I can help you with your music production skills. So just book a call, send me a message on Instagram, and without further talking, let's get straight into the video. First, I want to talk about the groove. So what is groove? I'll explain what I mean by groove in my own words. So in my own words, how I see it, groove is a relationship of all musical elements in the track that work together like mechanisms. So every single element is working together and it's working for one groove. So they have one groove sort of, I don't know. I don't think there's a better word of like groove swing to explain that. But if you think about like one mechanism, like an engine in the car, every single detail, every single gear is working towards one goal. And this is exactly what we should achieve and what you should be thinking of when you're making your own tracks. So now, since you understand what is groove, let's talk about what makes a good groove. I have prepared this diagram, and the key thing that you have to understand is going to be the space. Yes, the space. Space allows elements in music to breathe, because obviously they're not breathing, right? But breathe, I mean that there is enough space between each of the elements in the track. That's something that you have to understand, right? So the space between the kick, the bass, the synthesizers, anything that you have in your track, especially the drums, kick, and the bass, right? So if you look at this diagram, this is quite a good example because we have different length for different elements, right? So we have some so-called space in the track. So if you take a look at the kick, if you take a look at the bass, there is some space in between. I will show you another example shortly after that. And the same goes for the hats, the same goes for the claps. You don't want your instruments to overlap too much. I mean, overall, it could be okay in some cases, some occasions, but quite often if they're overlapping, it's just not going to sound good. And this is what I'm trying to illustrate in this example. So make sure every single element has its own space, and I will show you this later in the tutorial. And yeah, so if you don't have the space, the track is just not going to sound good. So what makes a good groove, really? This is the next step of it. This is an example of a bad groove, and the elements are overlapping and there's not enough space in the mix. So if you look at the diagram, you can see the kick, the bass, they are overlapping. Same goes for the hats, for the claps, and you can come up with as many elements as you want. If they don't have enough space in the track, if there's not enough space between each of the elements, the track just not going to sound good. That is the rule. I tested that a lot of times myself, so just trust me. And in the beginning of this video, that was the illustration of this concept, right? How do you know the right length of the elements? I'm going to give you a very specific advice. So in this example, you can see the kick and the bass. So the kick is red and the bass is black. So I always think of the space in between my kicks because there's a limited amount of space that you can use for that, right? So if you put just too much inside the thing, it's just not going to really work that well. And you can play around with different elements and see what works for your track. Something that I do myself and that works for me so far first, I'll try to play with the length of the element. If it's too short, I will increase that. If it's too long, I'm going to shorten that a little bit. It's really all about like experimenting and then understanding the groove and the type of sound that you want to achieve for your own track, right? But again, just always think of the space in between the kicks, because every single kick, it's like a little section. If there's too much going on in the section, just not going to sound good, right? And then again, just play with that, see what works for your track. And now I'm going to give you the secret. I'm going to give you the secret sauce, which is like not really the secret at the end of the day, but it's so simple. So what is the real secret to the groove? It's the ADSR envelope, which stands for attack, decay, sustain, and release. It can either supercharge or kill your mixes depending on the settings. If your track lacks groove, then the problem is most likely ADSR, maybe too many elements in the track, but you know. And now let's jump back to Ableton, and I'm going to give you some very specific examples. I want you to listen to those two examples really critically and try to understand what is the difference. The elements are the same, the loudness is this, like everything is the same, just besides the ADSR envelope. So once again, check the first one. And now the second one. So once you listen to those two tracks, the second track may seem like it's okay in headphones, because on monitors, the difference is like really dramatic. And it's just off, like the groove is off. There's no space to breathe. There's no like this bouncy jumping feeling that you can hear in all of those like reference tracks, like when you play in the club, right? In the first one, obviously this is like not mixed at all, just like very basic balancing and stuff. It could sound better, but then again, for this example, it's fine. But once you listen to the first one, it's It's really nice, it's really tight, it's punchy, everything has its own space in the mix, right? So what we are going to do now is we will go through every single element, and I will show you the difference so you can understand, and then you can later apply this concept to your own tracks to achieve a good sounding track and good sounding groove. So the first thing that we are going to compare is going to be the low end. I want you to listen to the low end, the kick and the bass, like specifically in both of those two tracks, and then we will fix the low end, then the drums, and then the rest of the track. Right, so once you listen to the kick and the bass, the kick sounds like it has perfect length, right? So we can play a little bit with that. I'm going to show you two short kick, two long kick, so you can hear the difference. So again, the length is, the perfect point for the length is around here. So you can either decrease the decay time and then increase the sustain, or you can drag the sustain like all the way down and focus on the decay instead. Like I do that sometimes. It just really about finding the right sound for your track. So sometimes it can look more something like this, and sometimes it can look more like what we have right now. But that's the concept with the sustain and release. So make sure that you always play with the decay time, right? To give you some suggestions on how to do that is I would normally I would just drag the sustain all the way down, and then I would play with the decay time. That's the short, right? This might be a little bit too long. So I think this is the amount of decay that we need, and then we can, yeah, that's pretty much it, right? Same goes for the bass line. You know, I'm working with a lot of like one-on-one clients, and from my coaching experience, the thing that people just forget, maybe they don't know, they maybe don't understand, is really the envelope. But this is the foundation to like every single track, right? Every good, like groovy and good sounding track. again, let's go to the second example and let's take a look at the kick and the bass so you can feel the difference, right? So what is happening here, if you listen like this, there's just no space for the kick and for the bass, because the kick is taking all that space, it's eating up the space in the mix, and you want to avoid that. So once we shorten the kick, this is where the magic kicks in, right? So even just like this, it's already so much better, right? Even though like the bass is too long, and I deliberately made it like too long to show you that it's off, even just like this, once we fix that, it's already sounding so much better. Now, what we're going to do is we are going to fix the envelope for the bass line. So for the bass line, there's the main envelope, which is controlling the loudness, like the volume of those two oscillators. And then there's the second one, which is controlling the filter. So what I want to do right now is to shorten the envelope. Do something like this, and then we're going to shorten the second one as well. So you can see just by shortening the envelope, it fixes the muddiness in the mix. And this is in fact, this is the problem that a lot of people have, like really. I've seen that so many times, including myself. So really spend extra time on tweaking the envelope, because this is so crucial. Same goes for the drums. We'll go through the drums as well, but you know, just already so much better, right? Let's go back to the first one. Yeah, it's pretty much the same, because the kick is the same and the bass is the same. So I hope that makes sense. So make sure you spend some time on envelope for the volume of the oscillators of the synthesizer, and then the second envelope, in case you are using one, that will control the filter, right? Super important. And then we can change the filter as well, but I would go with 24. I think it's pretty cool. Okay, so the next thing will be the drums. So the drums are really interesting, because it's pretty much the same thing as with like any synthesizer. So this one is set up like correctly to work for the groove. Let's go with the claps. It has just the right amount of sustain, even though there's a bit of room to increase the decay time, to automate that, maybe add a little bit of sustain as well. So what I want to show you right now is, let's take all the hats. Actually, I will show you on the second track. So let's go there, and let's start with the hats here. So try to listen how the hats are sounding. So this is exactly the same thing that I was talking about in the presentation. The hats, they are just overlapping. If you take a look here, like look at this. The hats are overlapping, and this is in fact the thing that happens to the second loop, to the second version of the same, right? So what we can do now is, let's go to the hats, and I'm going to solo and just one by one fix every single hat. Something like that. Second one. Add a bit of character with the second one. That's the shaker. Just a bit of that. This one has to be a little bit longer, because that's the open hat. It's giving you that like groove and a bouncy feeling, right? Same for the fourth one. Right? So just by simply decreasing the decay time, release time, and then sometimes sustain as well, we are fixing the groove. You see how easy that is, right? Let's go to the claps. So the claps are definitely too too long. So to fix that, again, we go to the envelope settings and then we just find the something like that, the second one. This is the layered clap, like a rim shot. Then the snare drum. Again, shorten the decay time. Okay, cool. Then for the rim shot, it's pretty much the same thing. So I'm not gonna go like through every single sound probably. Actually, you know what? It's not a lot, so let's do that. Let's deal with the snares, right? So again, let's go to the every single sound. Right, so once you make the snare shorter, see how much it affects the groove. It's a little bit too long. Then we can increase the sustain a bit. Something like this. This one is just killing the groove, right? Nice. Something like this. And the same thing goes for every single element in your track, right? So this is how you fix groove in your track. Go back to the track, check your envelopes, and you will see a massive improvement. And then to summarize everything and to end this video, I want to talk about a couple of things that are affecting the dynamics of the sound. So number one is going to be saturation. So saturation, it just squashes the sound. So it makes the sound flat. It's sort of like compression. It just cuts the transients and then makes the sound flatter, right? So let me show you the drums. I'm gonna bypass the processing. Yeah, actually saturation is doing quite a lot, right? But this is how the drums sounded before saturation, right? You see how much we can affect the dynamics of the sound with saturation. I really like Saturn because it's really flexible. It offers you multi-band saturation with a lot of modes, tones, dynamics. I'm not going to go like too deep into this, but just the concept that I want to talk about is really that saturation is also changing the dynamics of the sound, especially on the low end, right? So let's say if we take right like this. Oh, I think that was on the kick actually. Was it saturation? No. That was look, that was the wrong one, right? That's without saturation. Not that it just changes the sound and it makes it more powerful, warm. It also shapes the harmonic of the sound a lot. If I want to have like really mid-focused aggressive, yeah, so this is something more to keep in mind. And then there's one more thing that I wanted to talk about, and it is, especially on the drums, when it comes to the drums, what you want to use on your drums is a transient shaper, right? So without the transient shaper, if you listen to the drums, it's not bad, right? But once we do the transient shaping, that's obviously too much, but we can mix that. You can see decreasing the amount of sustain. We have less sustain now, more attack, and this is what creates punch in the track. So I would usually go anywhere from like 20, 50, sometimes could be more, but usually for me 50. Like I really like parallel processing. You see how much it can change the sound of the drums in the track. And then you would obviously want to check the levels, because if we check the levels, Now the drum's a little bit louder, but then again, like this is fine because the kick and the bass is already pretty loud. And then the last thing is going to be the sidechain compression from the kick. But yeah, this is pretty much it for this video. Much shorter one. I want to make a bit more shorter videos as well, just explaining one concept that will help you guys. So yeah, that's going to be it for this video. I hope that you learned something new from it. And as always, thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel, and then I'll see you guys in the next one.